I must add that the training at SSIFS is a balanced mix of lectures by stalwarts, by senior officers, diplomats, foreign diplomats, and at the same time a good mix of attachments in which the IFS officer trainees, they travel to one of the Indian embassies in a country and they get a first-hand exposure of how an embassy functions. Hi everyone, welcome to Officers on Duty. My name is Anuj Swarup. I am IFS Officer of 2016 batch. Now I will be talking about my training period. Once you get selected, for all the aspirants, it's a dream to be in Labasna in Mussoorie. And I had never been to Mussoorie, so I was really excited. And I boarded train and once you board the train, you can see, you usually end up meeting, other officers. That is what the journey itself becomes interesting because, then you try and start making friendships. You try and understand their journey, what is their background, what was their optional. And I remember, reaching Dehradun railway station early in the morning. And, the first challenge was to locate a taxi, get hold of a taxi, and it was an old ambassador, white ambassador, typical Sarkari types vehicle, in which we put all our luggage and we started our journey to Mussoorie. And once we reached, the first step was to take that coveted ID card, because that is something which is required everywhere, which ensures that you are able to even enter the hallowed halls of Labasna. And after that part was over, the second step is to find out where you have been allotted the hostel, which hostel you have been allotted. So there is, I think, Silver Woods, which is very near to the entrance, and which some people feel or used to feel that is better in terms of some amenities. But I was really happy to be allocated the Ganga hostel, because within aspirants and within officers, all kinds of stories you will hear about the Ganga. Ganga, I think it's one of the oldest hostel that has been there, and it's very near. Just if you exit from Ganga and if you go out from the back gate, you have a lot of eateries which are always famous with all the aspirants. And you once you enter, you are trying to bring in all your luggage, and the first thing that hits you is that, oh my god, it's so up and down. So Labasna is not on a plane. One building or one hostel is at different plane, and then the other is at a different plane. And to reach Ganga, you have to really, it's a long flight of stairs or a long pathway. And once you reach, you settle down everything, but then towards the night, when you have to climb up, that is when you realize that all that bad habits of eating late and eating Maggies have really done a real damage. That is how you realize. But so thankfully at Labasna, they have a very structured kind of training, which also includes an early morning session of PT, which all of us used to hate a lot, but it also helps you that you become fitter, and it also helps in preparing you for the trekking. So FC, it was a good mix of classroom as well as various activities. Initial 2-3 days, at least I used to feel that it's a bit tough, at least initially, because I was getting used to the climate on the hills, and then meeting so many new people from different services was itself at times overwhelming. Thankfully all of us had our ID cards on all the time. Otherwise it would have been really difficult, especially for someone like me to remember the names of your colleagues, and those 3 months change you in a way that you end up making friendships from different services which last the lifetime. So that is one really positive thing that FC does to you. And then the whole academy, the whole foundation course, the way it is structured, including optional mandatory activities. You had a long list of choices from horse riding to music to photography. That really helps you in your overall development as an officer. Last day of FC is always very emotional because all of us are young. And some of the colleagues, at least many of the colleagues, have started earning for the first time. From a aspirant they have become an officer, and at times the families come over for a lot of people, because even the IS people, who for them the academy remains the same, but if I remember correctly, they get a break because FC ends somewhere in December, first or second week of December, so they also get a break. So all the people are in traveling mode, and then at times someone's family is there, you get to meet their family, you meet, and then at times you get to know that, oh, some XYZ has already left and you could not meet them properly, or there was hardly any time. Then you also think through that, what all has happened in the FC, what all friends you have made, and then you wish that there was more time. That is something, it really hits you hard the last day, because you feel that you wish you had more time, you wish you had spent some more time with your friends. And then once you move out from FC, that's always very emotional. After completion of foundation course at Labasna, the Indian Foreign Service officers, they get trained at SSIFS, which is Sushma Swaraj Institute of Foreign Service. And I remember that me and my good friends, we three of us decided that let's go by road, because we had enough luggage. So we hired an Innova, and then we returned back from Mussoorie. We started from Mussoorie, if I remember correctly, somewhere in afternoon. We reached late at night. So I was really happy because Delhi is home for me. So I was coming back home. That way I was really happy. And also I remember towards the last week of our foundation course, our course coordinator in SSIFS, he was kind enough, he was gracious enough to add us to various WhatsApp groups and convey maximum possible information, including the first week's calendar of our training schedule, which was really helpful. And we reached late at night, and there was already a person who was assigned, who was present there, ready with the keys to hand over the keys of our hostel rooms, so that we could comfortably settle down in our rooms. And it was a weekend, so we still got 2 days off before the official training started. So SSIFS, it's the premier institute of the country for diplomatic training. It's having global linkages, and in SSIFS one had more flexibility. So there were, in the morning there were yoga classes, even the option of gym where there was a trainer, and in the evening my colleagues, my friends, they used to play, and in their free time, or if an exam or any assignment was coming up, we used to study together. But yes, mostly the day will start, you will go for the classroom, whatever lecture is assigned for the day. And also at times half a day will be a lecture, or half a day will be a visit to any organization. I remember, I think we visited the Google campus in Gurgaon in Delhi. So that way it's very dynamic. Then in the first week itself, you also call on the Honorable External Affairs Minister, the Honorable MOS in Ministry of External Affairs, the Foreign Secretary, and all the secretaries in the first week itself. And if I remember correctly, in second week or weeks after, you also call on the Honorable President, the Vice President, the Honorable Prime Minister. So it's a pretty busy and engaged period. And I must add that the training at SSIFS is a balanced mix of lectures by stalwarts, by senior officers, diplomats, foreign diplomats, and at the same time a good mix of attachments. We had our attachment in the armed forces, all the three wings of armed forces, for which one has to travel to different parts of India. Then there is a mission attachment module in which the IFS officer trainees, they travel to one of the Indian embassies in a country, and they get a first-hand exposure of how an embassy functions. Then there is that DARSHAN, to which a lot of it's a different learning experience to see and get exposure to your different parts of India. And also there is attachment with various important institutions, organizations across the country, for example ISRO and whatnot. So in SSIFS, it was a very varied content, so to say. One day you will be a senior officer or a very senior retired diplomat will be coming and speaking to you about say one part of the world. The next day it will be some other part of the world, and then the day after there will be a talk or a discussion on say media, the media module, the media outreach of MEA. Then there will be lectures on security aspects in foreign policy. So that diversity, you understand that how diverse the role and responsibility of an IFS officer can be, and at the same time you also, it kind of evokes an interest into in you, that you want to now you get in the habit of reading more, googling more. Okay, this thing I was discussed in class, this interesting thing was told to me in class or during this XYZ interaction. Then you get into the habit of trying to understand, trying to read more, which really puts you in good stead as you move ahead and you start working as an IFS officer. As an IFS officer trainee, one is expected to learn a foreign language also, which is known as the compulsory foreign language. And to learn that language, the IFS officer trainees go to that particular country, of that in which that language is spoken. And every year the language vacancies change. In some years there are vacancies for very niche languages, say Bhasha Indonesia or Sinhalese, and in some years these vacancies are not there. So that is one thing which keeps on changing every year. And yes, you are told, when you get to know the vacancies, and against those vacancies you apply, and one is allocated a particular CFL based on your rank and your preference which you have given in a very open and transparent manner. And that that allocation of that language basically decides your first foreign posting. So your colleagues who are allocated French, they go to France, Paris to study the language. Spanish people go to usually to Spain. Arabic, which is my CFL, people usually go to Cairo, but in my case, my batch went to Abu Dhabi in UAE and Qatar. So it's interesting because all of us look forward to know that where now life will take us as an IFS officer, which will be our first foreign country where we will be going to learn the language and also work and understand the work of an embassy. As I mentioned earlier, during training at SSIFS, mission attachment is it's an important module of the whole training process, because that is the first exposure for an IFS officer trainee to see how an embassy functions, what are the roles and responsibilities of an officer. And I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to visit Bangladesh, which is our neighbor, an important neighbor. And me and my friends, colleagues, we traveled, I think it was in March for our batch, and when we reached, the next day was Holi, and we very vividly remember that there was a big gathering, big event within the embassy premises on the day of Holi, in which the Indian community members were invited. So that was a very different experience to play Holi in a foreign land and see how festivals connect us even outside India. So that is a very vivid memory that I remember. For us, it was a very engaging and a very interesting exposure for one complete week. We had the opportunity and honor to call on the ministers in Bangladesh, interact with the media, then also visit some of the projects that as a part of our that India was executing in Bangladesh. So overall, it was a very comprehensive exposure to the kind of work an embassy is involved in a foreign country. Over the almost 6 months of classroom training, and during this time, you complete all the attachments, and you already know the CFL that has been allocated to you. You already know that which country you will be traveling to. After the classroom training is over, all the IFS officer trainees are allocated different divisions within the Ministry of External Affairs for desk attachment. Earlier it used to be for more than a year, but now it has been shortened, and it's 2 to 3 months depending on the language which you have been allotted. And during that period, one gets an opportunity to work in a division within the MEA. It can be any division. So it can be a territorial division which looks after the bilateral relations between India and a specific country, or it can be a multilateral division which looks after United Nations and all other international organizations, or it can be very specific kind of divisions, for example, economic diplomacy, policy planning division. So those 2-3 months are, although it's a very short time, but at least you get a very at least an overview that how the ministry functions, and you also get a chance to interact and meet with your seniors in the IFS who are able to guide you for your next step of the IFS training, that is the language training. Because during that particular point of time, you're also preparing, for your first travel abroad as an IFS officer. SSIFS, you enter it as a trainee, and you come out as an IFS officer. And during this transition, you not only learn about different issues, India's foreign policy, different topics, but also at the same time, you get a lot of inspiration from your seniors and colleagues to really perform to the best of your abilities. And at the same time, the time that you spent in SSIFS, that is probably the only time when all the batchmates, your IFS batchmates, are together, and it's chance to get to know them, make friends. Because once this time is over at SSIFS, it is hardly possible that the whole batch will be together in Delhi or a particular place together.